G'day. So today we are going to run through the Rapid Pro estimation, and we are going to focus on the finishing items. So the finishing items, in my point of view, means the kitchen, laundry, main living room, bedrooms, wet rooms, heating, cooling, and hopefully we've got enough time and we can briefly touch into the external works. It's very important to understand the setup of the estimating. In our previous session, when we spoke about the structural setup of the Rapid Pro, we spoke about the base inclusions. With the Rapid Pro estimation, the estimation doesn't show you the breakdown of the cabinetry final price, the breakdown of the painting final price, the tiling final price. It's all lumped in together, and we're talking about room-to-room costings. What's really critical in relation to understanding the finishing items is to have an understanding of your project's expectations of how much they're spending on the fixtures and fittings. The way Estimating Online Rapid Pro Estimation manages this, if you click on the cost guide report, it will actually take you to a breakdown of all the PC sum allowances. The way we explain this is we have volume builder, project builder, and custom builder. In our previous conversation, we said that a custom home builder engages with trades north of $90 an hour. These guys typically are probably going to be installing more higher end finishes than it would be for a volume builder who has trades at the lower end market who's installing lower end products. So by clicking out on the prime cost report, which is found in the profile, once again, it's found here. The other location you can also find it is the gold note, the black triangle, and there is also the cost guide in there. As we open this up, it gives us a range of costings. For example, if we are a custom home builder and we're looking at a hot plate, if you select low, the price PC cost range is going to be around $1,400. If you select high for a project builder, the hot plate is about $2,000, $2,100. If we go into the tiling, these are the structures that it's set up. So it's a guide. Now, your particular project that you may be estimating might have $90, $100 square meter tiles, but your trades don't charge you that higher price. We need to take this into consideration when we finalize the estimation and potentially put in higher contingencies. I'm going to continue down and then I'm going to go into the kitchen. As we expand out on each of the headers, what we're going to notice is there is a base inclusions list. So what I'm going to do is, not that screen. Here's a set of plans. As we are building out this kitchen, what's important to understand is that inside the Rapid Pro, based on my square meters of building area, this is what's included in my base construction price that's found in the top right-hand corner. So we've got entry-level top, oven, sink, range hood, hot plate, dishwasher, 1 bayonet point, 3 power points, and tiled splashback. However, if we look at the plan, we need to understand the elements in the plan. They've said overhead cupboards. So if we look at the inclusions, it doesn't say overhead cupboards. So we've got to click out to the cabinets and joinery and we've got to add overhead cupboards. When we actually measure, we're not trying to get a measuring tool and measure it. We should be able to read the plans and be able to make good decisions. If the kitchen width is 5 meters, I actually feel completely safe and I would actually encourage estimators to add 5 meters, even though in the real world, we're actually only purchasing from here to here. Bad example of color. But when it comes to ordering, it's not ordered in the exact lineal meters. So select 5 meters and let's move on. It's important to take the steps even further. There's no stone bench top, so we've got to add a stone bench top. There's no pot drawers, so we've got to allow pot drawers. I'm just going to rehatch a little bit. The base construction price at the top is always going to allow the very minimum entry level to get you to lock up. If we can keep that mindset together, that it's going to get us to lock up for the kitchen or the laundry or the bedroom, we're going to have a good understanding of what's included in the base price. Feature splashbacks, feature pantries, custom joinery, wine cellars, oven stacks, microwaves, zip taps, additional sinks, special appliances, more appliances, pendant lights, strip lights, additional down lights, track lights. It's all built into the system. So if you're making a decision about what you see on this plan, I want you to add in all the extras that is extra to the kitchen. What we can also do is we can control the pricing that goes into the kitchen. Now, I haven't added a lot of stuff in. What I'm going to actually do here is I'm going to add a bit more features in just to beef up this price. So my conversation about my next topic is going to be a little bit more clearer. So let's say, let's say the client's gone a little bit bananas and, you know, they've added a few extra pieces that's outside of our standard. As we look at the price on the right-hand side, we actually have the settings set at low specification. I'm going to change that to a custom builder. So a low specification is getting us about $53,000 to $58,000. Now, if your client feels like they want to spend some more money, you click on this drop down here and you change that to high, the price will change. You change it to medium, the price will change. That's what this function does. We can actually go into the joinery and we can change that to high, and then all the settings change as you go. So that's just some basic functionality of what happens with the Rapid Pro in relation to the kitchen. The actual laundry is no different. Laundry is exactly the same. Inside the laundry, you're going to get entry-level features to be able to build that laundry. For example, you're not going to have stone bench tops, glass splashbacks, mirror sliders, broom cupboards, linen cupboards, laundry chutes, all that sort of stuff. If we can take our mindset and say, what is the very bare minimum to build a laundry, then that's what we are going to have to be able to produce this estimation. Let's take a look at these plans and see what we might be looking at here. These plans have drawn in overhead cupboards, stone bench tops, and a full rack of shelving. And let's say that they wanted full height tiling. So what we're going to do is we're going to add in those stone bench tops. Now, once again, I'm not going to get my measuring tool and measure that out. I could look at the plans and say, okay, that dimension from there to there is about 3 meters. If I move that into there, you could possibly say the width of that laundry is about 3.5 meters. Once again, because ordering in construction is not exactly ordered in the exact linear meters, I'm going to say I'm going to go straight to 5. Once again, just remember this is a budget. We're not trying to be so precise with our costings. Even when we go through to a contract estimate, which might be the elemental estimate, we still want to take that approach. So we're going to add in 5 meters of stone bench tops, 5 meters overhead cupboards. What we're going to do here is they've drawn some cupboards over this side. We're going to suggest that they're full height cupboards. We're going to add in possibly 2 linen cupboards, maybe a broom cupboard for good luck, just to cover that space that's drawn on the plans. What we can also do is you'll notice that it does not say full height tiling. It says skirting tile only. So I need to measure the size of the room. So if I go 3.5 multiplied by 3, we're looking at maybe 9 square meters. I'm just going to put in 10, and that's going to add in the cost. When we actually look at the costings of the wall treatments, we're actually going through the openings. We want to capture that as a little bit of waste, and we want to make sure that our costings is covered. Same process as the kitchen. We can actually change the specification to high. We can change it to low. The pricing changes as they go. So if you have a client potentially who spent too much money, we can actually narrow down room by room, finish by finish, element by element in reducing the specification. The main living room is a little bit of a tricky one. What I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to draw out, in my opinion, what the actual main living room area is. The main living room area includes hallways, passageways, entries, lounges, sitting rooms, playrooms, studies, bookshelf areas, whatever you want to call it. It does include the kitchen. So for this particular plan, this is my main living room area. I do like to use a takeoff program to be able to get to that answer. That way I can be a little bit more accurate with my costings. So I've got about 110 square meters of main living room area. Once I know that, the rest is just a walk in the park. I've already told you guys how the structure of the estimating is set up. So what that means is the base inclusions. There is absolutely no way three lights and 3 PowerPoints is going to cover what's on that plan. Now, we're taking into consideration that this is all new work. So what we're going to be able to do is, if it's main floor tiles, we know that inside the base is timber flooring. So we're going to put in 110 square meters. I'm actually going to leave it a little bit short. I'm not going to be too precise. I could go another way around and I could add that in to get to 120. At least my cost is covered. I'm going to add in some more downlights. I'm not going to be so precise. I just want to make sure that costings are covered. Now, as an estimator with experience, I know there's not going to be 30 PowerPoints. That's common sense. If we go by the rule in a main living room area of 4 PowerPoints to a large area, you're going to be pretty safe and covered. So I'm going to go 4, 8, 12, cover myself off. You can add pendant lights, internal wall lights, strip lights, all these features that may or may not be on the plan. What I like the builder to do is I want the builder to sit with the client and have a conversation. Sit with the client and have a conversation. It's like, hey, would you like to do strip lights to the cabinets? Would you like to do track lights? Would you like to do data points? Do you want two-way switches? Offer that next level of customer service so you can be a part of the process with the client. Let them be part of the selection process and let them update the pricings as they go. Skylights, ceilings, cabinets and joinery. I will say that cabinets and joinery can very, very, very easily get out of hand. And I've seen on multiple occasions where that budget's blown out to $100,000 because we've put too much joinery in there. Staircase upgrades. Single-story houses don't have staircases. Other items is where we put items inside of the main living room that is just randomly part of the main living room. Complete powder rooms, fireplaces, wall panels, wallpaper, lifts, all these different features. I'm going to talk about renovation. This is actually really critical to understand. Now, I'm going to undo what I've spoken about with main living room, and I am going to suggest that this area that I'm covering right now is brand new work. So remember that when we are doing a renovation, the building area is only for brand new work. We're going to suggest that the slab inside here is going to stay and the passageway stays. So because we covered this particular area as building area, this area that I'm about to draw is actually all part of the existing work. I'm going to clarify this a little bit more when I go to talk about the bedrooms. So this area that's in grey has got an existing slab, existing roof, and existing walls. This area that we've calculated is about 50 square meters. So what we're going to do is we are going to pull up the Rapid Pro estimation, and we're going to ask the questions exactly as it goes in from the renovation start all the way down to the bottom. Do we need to rectify the existing joists and bearers? No. Do we need to rewire and replace electrical? Well, if I'm spending $400,000 on a renovation, I'm not going to leave that area in cream and have brand new stuff everywhere else. So I'm going to rewire and put new stuff in there. Do I replace windows? Do I replace doors? Do I protect the flooring? Well, same situation as previously. We're not going to put brand new carpet and brand new flooring without replacing all this new flooring through here. So I'm going to put brand new flooring in, which means that we're not going to protect the existing flooring. When we go to floor coverings, we're going to remove and replace. I also want to ask the question when we look at this particular area here is what's happening to the existing walls and ceiling? The builder or the design brief or the plan should say, are we just going to repaint it or are we going to remove and replace? I always like to go on the side of caution. If they never tell us, always remove and replace. We always want to be a little bit high on our costings. That's a strategy that I like. That might not necessarily be what is instructed on the particular job. However, we want the builder to come down in price, not always go up. Everyone's got their own strategy. You choose what you wish. I'm going to add in 50 square meters of remove and replace the walls and the ceiling. I don't need to add any internal walls in because underneath my building area, I've captured those costings. And then we go out into the next elements. So that's basically covering the main living room. Moving on to the bedrooms, very similar situation. You expand out on the heading. Part of the finishing items is to understand what's included. So we have one standard bayonet, which is a light point, one power point, flush panel door, shelf and rail, carpet. However, if your particular project doesn't have that information, there are different features. You've got the option inside the price library to add in all these extra features. If they want to do timber flooring, this is the price to do timber flooring in lieu of carpet. So we're replacing the carpet with timber flooring. Sometimes there's extreme specifications. Sometimes we got to understand that we've got to put in more downlights, more pendant lights, more power points. Bands. Let's pay attention to detail. Being an estimator is you got to have an extreme level of attention to detail. We got a pretty good idea what the rest is going to look like as well. Built-in robes is probably the most confusing thing that a lot of people get mixed up in. If you look at these plans here, in my opinion, from my experience in construction, the way this is drawn, it's drawn as shelf and rail. This is probably the most critical part of the bedroom takeoff. Sometimes my estimators in my group, it takes them a couple of years to get an understanding of what shelf and rail versus custom joinery is. Do some research, learn a little bit more information. For example, in the laundry here, if this was a bedroom, hypothetically, and that was drawn, I would say that's custom joinery because the word cupboards. If I look here, it's drawn like that, it's shelf and rail. If you want to get technical, my belief is if there is a 450 mil shelf, that is shelf and rail. If it's drawn a lot slimmer, that's custom robes. We want to ask the same questions about renovations. Just going to fix up this little bit here. If I pull up this job, now let's say we need to renovate bedroom 1. The existing slab stays, so that means it's not part of our building area. But what we want to do is we want to work out what that area is. 20 square meters. Now, if we didn't have a measuring tool and we knew that the laundry was 3 meters by width, we would safe to say that that bedroom is about 4 meters in width and about 7 meters in length, giving us about 28 square meters. When I do it properly, I get to 22. There is nothing wrong with being a little bit over. I would actually prefer you're a little bit over than being so precise. We want to ask ourselves the question again. Are we going to replace all the electrical? Yes. Are we replacing the windows? Yes. Are we replacing the door? Yes. We want to make a decision. Are we removing and replacing the walls? So another good tip that I like to say to my estimators, jump on realestate.com, have a look at the condition of the property, and you can make a good decision from there. I generally don't like using Renovate painting unless I've been instructed. Floor coverings, I already spoke about that in the main living room. Same function goes with the wet rooms. Now, there is a golden rule whenever we do a renovation. If we are renovating a bathroom, we are always going to include it as building area. It's just a rule that's in place and should never be broken. Coming back to the base build inclusions, we have all the inclusions that's provided in our base cost up the top. Light point, heat light, we can read from the screen. We want to expand out on all the items that's required. And if we cut corners and we don't click on the items, we're only cutting ourselves short in estimating. We want to make it easy for ourselves, so make sure we click out on every single element so we understand the final process. Heating and cooling is actually very self-explanatory. We need to make a decision if we're going to replace the whole system or we're going to put in split systems. Split systems are usually for small areas. Sometimes they can be for large living room areas. Refer to the specification or make a decision. External works is not included in the base price. Never has and never will be. So if we are looking at the external part of this project, we've got outdoor area, we've got barbecue with bench, we've got, looks like, don't know. Let's make up a couple of things. A driveway, we've got some fencing, a letterbox, clotheslines. All this information is all part of the external works. So, same rules apply. Let's click out on the fields and make sure we've covered everything. If you want to add in a clothesline, external cabinets, shed, letterboxes, strip drains, barbecues, all this information is here. Floor treatments. You can put in driveways, pathways, slab square meters. All these costings are pre-built and all in place. So as a conclusion, I just want to draw back going from top to bottom. Make sure that we read the base inclusions. Every time you do change the type of builder, it will change what happens in your base inclusions. The second most important thing is read the cost guide sheet. This is your cost guide sheet. It's going to help you have an understanding of your provisional prime costs, which is basically an allowance for each element of the build. So that's all. I believe this is the first step of estimating to understand. I believe that as a new estimator, if you come on board, it's very important to have an understanding of the finishing items. Once you have an understanding of finishing items, we go into the structural elements of the build, and then we go into strategy, and it's endless from there in estimating. So, does anybody have any questions? Nope. Nope. All right. Thanks for your time. I'm going to hit stop record, and we will close up.